Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first eCommerce Explored of 2026. It is very cool to be back doing this for all of you again. And we have got a stellar lineup of webinar guests for you today. I've just been chatting with them and quite remarkable that I actually managed to go live on time because we were chatting. But anyway, here we are. We are on time. I can see some of you are already coming in and joining us. That's really, really cool. eCommerce Explored exists to discuss and hopefully find some answers to those big questions that brand decision makers like you are wrestling with right now. We are kicking off the year, as we always like to, with our "What on earth do you need to do this year to be successful" topic. This year named e-commerce success, what's really going to move the needle in 2026. And to help you with that, because some years I'm like, if you do this, this and this, you'll be completely fine. This year, I'm not so sure. So I've pulled together a panel with very different angles on all of this. Not divergent angles, but cohesive angles on all of this, so we can get as many perspectives as we can give you, basically, to help you tackle this. So I think we're up for a very entertaining and educational session today. We do have lots to talk about, so let me get through the all-important housekeeping relatively quickly. So whilst I have a ton of questions for our panelists, we would also love it if we got to answer some of your questions. So in the panel, I think on the right-hand side of where you're watching, you will find a Q&A box where you can send us your Qs so we can A them. I'd love it if we could give that functionality a test right now. So if you could let me know where you are tuning in from. A simple "Hi, Chloe, I'm Dave and I'm tuning in from Birmingham" would be completely fine. We'll give that a little bit of time to come through whilst I waffle on at you about the questions. So questions. We often get a lot of questions coming in with only 10 minutes to go. And I'll be honest, I barely have any time at that point to get any of your questions answered. So make sure you ask questions. Sorry, I'll explain why I'm giggling in a second. Make sure you get those questions in early. You can ask them now if you like, and then I will make sure we get them answered for you as we go through. Also, our lovely panel have access to the comments area as well. So if you're very lucky, they may get involved in that whilst we're chatting on screen, and you may get text answers before you get an on-screen answer. The reason I'm giggling is because our webinar connoisseur, Edward Scott Finnegan, has joined us. Hello, Edward. Great to have you here again. I think he's been to every single one of these now. Mark from California is here. Hello, Mark. We've got Gillian joining us from Canada. We've got another Mark coming in from, oh no, that's Ashu, one of our panels, already getting involved in the comments, who's also in San Francisco. And we've got Robin from Barbados. We are going properly international today. Cool. And someone else in the UK. So very cool. Right. So clearly the chat is working. So you guys have no excuses for not sending us in some really interesting questions for our panel. What else do I need to tell you about this webinar? I need to tell you a big thank you to our marvelous sponsors, Alhena AI, who are awesome. You're going to meet their Ashu in our session. He's going to be giving you his take on what's going to work in 2026. And you can find out more about them via alhena.ai, and you'll be getting links to them in the follow-up emails. You will also almost certainly have seen information about them somewhere around this video right now. So huge thanks to Ashu and the team for being our partners in this webinar. And then who is the rest of our panel? So as I said, we've got Ashu Dubey from Alhena AI coming to give us the take on, let's say, customer experience, customer service, and all things AI and customer retention, I suppose. We've got Ian, who is joining us all the way from Japan, which, quite frankly, hats off given what time it is in Japan right now. He deserves a medal for this. So huge thanks to him for being here. And he works with hundreds of high growth D2C founders. So I'm really interested to hear his take on the questions and topics we're going to be exploring. And we've got Sian Conway-Wood from First Street Communications, who is our customer behavior expert. So yeah, we've got a bit of everything going on. I did warn you we had a bit of everything going on, but I think it's time we now get our panel up here to chat as well, so they can do a much better job of introducing themselves than I just attempted to do. Hello, everybody. Right, talking of intros, let's work our way around the room. I think we'll start with Ashu, who's underneath me, and then we'll work our way anti-clockwise around. So Ashu, welcome. Great to have you here. Please let the audience know a little bit more about you and what you guys are up to.
Hey everyone, my name is Ashu Dubey. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Alhena AI. And Alhena is an agentic commerce platform for brands selling online. We are very excited to be here. Thanks, Chloe, for having me and the Alhena team, and excited to share what we are seeing on the ground.
And I believe you spent last week at NRF. So you
I
are,
was in NRF, yes. And the team at NRF, I'm happy to talk more about it, but it was Agentic CX all the way. And happy to dive more into details of that. Most of the vendors are still early.
yeah, so I imagine it was fascinating walking around and seeing where everyone was up to. But we may or we may not get into that. Let's see where the questions
Yes.
take us and where the audience takes us. Sian, great to have you here. Please let everyone know a bit more about you and where you're from and what you specialize in.
Thanks, Chloe. Hi, everybody. My name's Sian Conway-Wood. I'm the Senior Managing Partner at 181st Street. We are a behavioral growth consultancy. So we're a bit of a hybrid between a business consultancy and a marketing agency. And my specialism is growing the commercial side of brands through really deep understanding of human behavior and consumer psychology, so behavioral science.
Marvelous. And Ian.
Hey, my name's Ian Sells. I'm actually usually from San Diego, but currently in Japan right now, where it's 1 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I founded a company called Million Dollar Sellers, MDS, and it is a global network of over 700 plus multi-million-dollar e-commerce brand owners. We host local meetups and get-togethers and masterminds all around the world through massive events. Been around for about almost 10 years now. And then also JoinBrands is my other company where we bring together brands and help them work with influencers, affiliates, and creators on large scales with companies like Mary Ruth Organics and Bloom Nutrition and some of the other big companies like that.
Awesome. So everyone, I did tell you we had a brilliant panel for you today. So I see we've already got one cracking question that's come in. So thank you for that, Ivan. And I will make sure I ask that question definitely later on because it's one panel. You may want to mull on this one for a little bit before we get to it. But we're going to start as we always do. So get more questions in. That's what I want to tell you all. So what we like to do, or how I like to do this, I like to start off by posing some kind of complete the sentences or top or standard statements of mine for the panel to rip apart or complete in the case of this complete the sentence. So this one is one which I just thought would be such a cool way for us to start off this and help us work out where we're going to go with this. So the advice I've been giving most to brands and merchants to help them be successful in 2026 is, Ian, can I pick on you to be the first answerer of this? Because I figure your life is talking to brands about this kind of stuff. So you seem like a good place to start.
Yeah, actually, well, the advice that we have really is that, you should focus on the channels that are really coming up as fast as possible. So that would be TikTok right now. So TikTok is helping brands scale tremendously fast, faster than we've ever seen before through any other channel and organically as well as paid ads. TikTok is a game changer when it comes to distribution of your message, distribution of your products. And it actually inflates all the other channels that you're doing business on. So it's a huge lever.
It does seem to deliver on every front. There's the marketplace element, the influencer element, the creator element. You've got the affiliate element. You've got, the organic and brand awareness and almost thought leadership side of it. Do you recommend deploying on every element that TikTok gives you?
Right now, mostly focused on product, right, and affiliates. So, trying to push sales through TikTok, which translates to sales on TikTok and sales on other channels.
Nice. Sian, what would your answer be to this one?
So unsurprisingly, mine's going to be from a behavioral lens. And the advice that I give most often is around our preconceptions and our assumptions of how we buy. We all like to think that when we're making buying decisions, when we're engaging with advertising and brands and social content, that we are these wonderful higher beings with cognitive reason. And, that we're, especially in the advertising industry, that we're absorbing all of that great creativity. And actually, it's our reptile survival brain. Like we buy because we are reducing risk. We are ticking certain needs within us. And that may be things like social status and acceptability within the herd. It may be, obviously, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we buy food because we need to eat. Then there is a layer about which brands we choose to do that from. But actually, that choice is all about that risk reduction. It's all about meeting those needs. And so much of it is done subconsciously. So We just have to let go of that desire to think that our audience really wants all of our creativity and everything else. They do, but they're reacting to it in a different way. They're not there with their really kind of rational, critical brain switched on. They're in what's called system 1, 90% of the time, which is the very first, very intuitive, this feels right, this doesn't feel right, subconscious emotional reactions to things. And actually, that's where you want them to be, because it's much quicker. If system 2 comes online, which is the judgmental brain and the brain that does the reasoning, 9 times out of 10, they're going to talk themselves out of purchasing anything, let alone from your brand. Yeah, that's the bit that I end up repeating all the time.
I love the answers so far. And I'm going to go to a question from the audience. Then, Ashu, I will be asking you this one as well. But I love that kind of like Ian's giving us that super practical what channels to use, etc., that we need to be doing. And then Sian's kind of going, but you need to remember how the consumers think, which, of course, to cut through all the noise on all the platforms is just so critical at the moment. So very cool. But we've had a question that Ian, I've got to ask you this as we were just talking about TikTok. Let's do this one from Gillian. Would you still recommend TikTok investment if TikTok Shop is not available in your country? So is TikTok organic worth it if you can't do the marketplace and the affiliates?
Well, if you can drive traffic to your Shopify store, things like that, you can definitely utilize TikTok. It's not as good of a growth lever and it's not as high volume as you'd get, right? It's not just a channel where you're going to have one posting. The brands are really successful on TikTok are the ones posting a lot, right? And working with tons of creators all at one time. So you can't just dip your toe in, I would say, on TikTok, but you can run ads just like on Meta, right? So get a nice video that you want to use for showing emotion and why people should buy and how it solves your problems, right? And how it's transformative, right? And then use that as an ad driving traffic or views to your website.
Nice, Gillian. Hopefully that, I don't know why that wouldn't answer your question, because that was an excellent answer. I hope that's answered your question. So I said, Ashu, we would bring you back to this one here. So Ashu, what's your take on this? What's the advice you're giving to brands and merchants for this year?
Yeah. So obviously brands come to us for everything AI. And my advice is related with AI. And I advise them to think about AI from 3 different perspectives. One is you can use AI on defense, meaning using AI to improve efficiencies, cut costs. So it could be maybe you are using a lot of hours in updating your product page descriptions, and you can use AI to automate some of it. And so you can drive a lot of efficiency. So that's one. The second is using AI for offense, meaning driving top line, driving revenue. And there are 2 components to using AI to drive revenue. One is discoverability, which is all the rage, AEO, how do you appear in ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. And the second is once the users are on your brand owned properties, it can be your app or website. How are you converting them? Are you leveraging AI to convert them? And we obviously play in both of them, have driven strong results for brands like Unilever, Victoria Beckham, which is a UK-based brand, and others. But yeah, so that's the most common advice is you need to start playing with the AI and not be on the sidelines. If you are on the sidelines, you're missing out big time. Even if you didn't find the perfect vendor, it makes sense to go ahead and start deploying even like crawl, walk, run approach, because the learnings from that will help you later, but you cannot be on the sidelines.
I love the way you split it into offensive and defensive. I don't think I've heard anyone talking about it in that way. And it's that big kind of slap around the face that most of us need of it's not just AI, it's why you're using it and the problems you're trying to solve. So I love that. Ian, Sian, anything as we're talking AI, anything you'd add in the AI? Ian, I see you've just immediately unmuted. So what's your take?
No, I mean, I fully agree. You need to be employing AI throughout your business to save money, to become more efficient, and also take advantage of what it can do for your business as far as like growth and new product research and understanding your customer and even ads and, designs and videos that you can make with AI as well. So definitely I'm a big proponent. I think that any, futuristic CEO of a brand, right? Not futuristic, but in today's world has to actually have somebody on their team that actually is focused and also almost a developer that can actually run automations and set things up for the business to be more efficient, because it is a time consuming thing. So I see a lot of brand owners trying to do this themselves. And I always say, hey, you need to find, a developer that you can bring onto your company to take on these automations and run these AI, tools that can save you tons of money and grow you faster.
And you know what? One of the most surprising things I've found when it comes to AI is the more top tier, more premium a brand is, the more open they are to trying an AI compared to the brands that are new and upcoming or maybe in the small to medium. And that can be perplexing because AI is supposed to, risk. There's supposed to be certain risks with AI, and the premium brands have a lot to lose if the AI goes wrong. But in my experience, they are way more forward than some of the brands that are in medium and small tier.
I'm seeing that a lot. We do a lot of work in luxury fashion, and actually, it's the heritage brands, it's the real kind of established legacy brands, the established luxury houses that are bringing it to the front of their business as well, using AI models in their shoots. And I know there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of worry and there's a lot of talk about job displacement. That's always going to happen when there's new technology. My perspective on it is that it's here, it's going to stay, it's going to be part of everything we do in our businesses and our lives in some way, shape, or form. We have to get over the fear and the resistance of it. And actually, we're starting to migrate out of, because these heritage brands, from an e-com perspective, these heritage brands are the ones that are really leading the way. Like you said, we're starting to get to the point where we're moving out of early adoption. Like, it's becoming mainstream now. And actually, for me, this is the year that if you don't really follow that advice that you've both just shared and really kind of go, right, how does this fit with our business? Where do we want it involved? Where don't we want it involved? And what's that going to look like? This is actually going to be the year, I feel, where there's going to be that gap widening that's then not going to close. It's not necessarily were you an early adopter. It's now, are you keeping up?
So let's dive into this AI bit. I mean, we were going to end up talking about it sooner or later. So let's dive into it for a few minutes. I find it fascinating that the heritage brands are in there because you would have thought they'd be the last ones to adopt it. But do we start on the defensive? Do we start on the offensive? Is it about finding a good piece of tech that we can integrate to do things? Is it about just going straight to ChatGPT and allowing the team to use that? Where do we start, or where do we go? Actually, no, let's not say where do we start. Where do we go to next if we've been dabbling, but we now want to really see some? I was happy for any of you to jump in on this because I suspect you've all got opinions. So whoever speaks first can go first in the answer.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first as a practitioner of AI. I love for Ian and Sian to chime in. What, from a brand perspective, the lowest hanging fruit right now is customer support. Like in CX, you can deploy an AI. It's very mainstream, and if you're not there, that's the first place to start. It's almost risk free, I would say. And once you deploy any sort of AI tool, there are certain things that come with it, meaning how to train an AI, how to prompt an AI, how to control the AI, how to make it speak like your brand. And so there are certain things that you will learn regardless of in what use cases you are going to use it. So start there if you're not, and then you can start expanding from there. The adjacent use cases, like, can you use AI as a shopping assistant? Can you use AI as a product FAQ generator? And then on the merchant side as well, to the brand efficiency side, can you use AI to generate more assets, as Sian was saying, for ads? And so then the use cases will start expanding from there organically, and you'll start having fun. But start maybe on the CX side because that's the more predominant and has been almost mainstream.
Okay, so Ian, Ashu's going for start with customer experience because you'll learn it's pretty low risk, and then you can expand out from that. Where would you advise someone to go to next?
Yeah, I mean, I always go to growth, right? So when I'm talking to brands, they always want to, how do I go sell more products, right? So figuring out how to use the AI to help them build new products, to scale their ads up, to come up with new ideas quicker and cheaper, right? So that's really where AI is coming into play. My platform helps you connect with real people that can deliver real results and make purchases and influence other people. And then AI can also be used for developing videos and things, the assets they can use as a business owner. So I would say, like, if the reason why you're seeing legacy brands like moving quicker is because they have people in those businesses that can actually take on that role right away, right? And then the brands that you see up and coming really fast, and the ones that why are these brands moving so quickly and growing so fast, is because they take action, right? So there's a big difference between brands who want to grow. Should I sell here? Should I do this or that? And then there's ones that just they go, right? And they put effort and time into a different market or a marketplace. And so the ones that I see, are doing this. They're hiring people to run that particular division and scale it up in the growth sector. Right? Definitely customer service. All of the tools they're already using already have AI agents built into them, so they're not really having to go, create their own apps. Right? You can just tap into, Intercom or some of those other apps that people use with Shopify. Right? I would say customer service is really an easy one, but then it comes into, product scaling, product development, understanding your customer avatar, deeply, and analyzing tons of data.
Nice. I want to ask you so many questions about creative and advertising, but we'll see what the audience wants a little later on. Sian, Ian there was talking about, getting to deeply understand the customer. Is that where you would suggest people go next with AI, or is there another angle you would recommend for this year?
Surprisingly, yes, as the one obsessed with the psychology. I would say, as a growth consultancy, we are across so many different ways of deploying AI across all different industries. I have worked in tech for years before I did this. So I am an early adopter of things. I'm like, get it, give it a go. Where we've had a lot of success in our own business and with clients, the most successful clients that I'm seeing are the ones that are very logistics focused about it. It isn't, like you said, it isn't just dabble with ChatGPT here and there and just dip our toe in over here, dip it in over here. It's right, we're going to take this as a project. We're going to implement it on customer service first, or on this first, or on this first. We're going to get that right, and then we're going to deploy it elsewhere. And then you do learn the skills and they are transferable, but it is when you're giving dedicated resource to it and you're being really focused. From a consumer point of view, there's a lot of fear with brands, especially around it being deployed creatively in ad assets, in content creation. And, on LinkedIn, there's the great M-witch hunt, which pains me a bit as someone who loves writing, because it is and, the rhetoric, they are all literary devices, but there is kind of negativity around AI tells and things. One of the key bits that I'm advising a lot on when brands are wanting to create models and replace models with AI and things is around the concept of the uncanny. So this is actually a real kind of deep-seated survival instinct within us. And it's when things look a little bit too perfect or a little bit, it looks human, but it's not quite. It's why we find realistic dolls really creepy, like unbelievably creepy, because it triggers the uncanny. And actually Freud wrote a lot about it. And then in tech, and robotics, there's the concept of uncanny valley, which is, for anyone who has seen the film The Stepford Wives, there's a big twist at the end of that. And not to ruin it for anyone, it has been out for absolutely donkey's years, but it turns out that all these really perfect these housewives are robots. And that works as a kind of horror movie thriller because it's triggering the uncanny all the way through it. It's really unsettling us. So one of the things, if you're deploying it creatively and you're starting to do that, is to start to understand some of the psychology of why we find these things creepy, and not just, the really obvious things like when it's generated an image and the person's got 3 hands or 3 arms or something, and it's clearly not. But when it is an almost too polished and too perfect image, we're striving for that in our creative output, but actually that can have the opposite effect and that can trigger that backlash. But if you look at the customer data on it and things like the Coca-Cola advert, where this year for Christmas they recreated the famous advert with AI, they did it last year. Actually, the data said that customers couldn't tell and didn't care. So as long as you don't trigger that uncanny, their level of care around it and the level of backlash that brands are scared of is actually so much less than the fear of that.
Love that. And just to add a ridiculous anecdote before we go on to the next question. There's an event I've done or I'm about to do or may have done in the past, because I'm naming no names, who've done some really weird AI things with people's headshots that, if you know the people, I saw mine and I just laughed out loud. It's like, that is not me. It's weirdly like me, but it's not me. And they're currently, I think they're now changing them all because they've had bad reactions from people, because it's like, you hiring me for the brand recognition. And if you change my face, it's no longer me. Anyway, before I tangent completely off on that one, Alexandros and Sophie, I see your questions. They're really good. We will come back to them because I want to go back to the slide deck and ask another big old question, kind of the inverse of the one I started with of our panel, which is, I think I personally believe people in business are bad at killing off things that don't work, that they need to stop doing. And if you're going to focus on growth and you're going to focus on success, you have to create the mind space, the space for the team, the space for the budget to do it. So if there's one thing a brand should stop doing this year, what would it be? Ian, can I come to you first on this one, please?
Sure. Yeah, this one's always tough. What should somebody stop doing in their business? It's always tough. Looking at where your skills are best used, right? What your best time is spent on, how do you get your highest ROI? And if you look at your business in that way, then you can kind of like analyze, okay, well, if I just do social media content, it's not really making me any money. I love it. It's great, but it takes a lot of time. So maybe I should be putting my skills and time into something else that's higher ROI. So I would say, look at your business from that standpoint. Where do I see the most bang for my buck and my time? And, put more energy into that.
The perfect answer. Ashu, Sian, can either of you do better?
A lot of pressure. I'll give it a go. So mine would be around killing off what makes your brand distinct, your distinctive brand assets. We saw some really big, high-profile examples of that attempted and then reversed last year with Cracker Barrel, very famously, and obviously Duolingo played into it by killing off Duo and then bringing him back and creating a whole load of buzz. But what I have seen a lot on kind of not on that level of brand, but kind of mid-tier brands is because TikTok has become so popular and you can be so successful very quickly, like Ian said, there's been a real kind of swing to let's chase trends, let's jump on the trending sound, let's do the latest thing, the dance or whatever it is, the meme. And in doing that, very small, very reactive teams are forgetting to bring in the thing that makes their brand distinctive. And actually, the way that we buy is all based on, if you look at all of the data around how we make buying decisions, about 80% of it is the brand that we are most familiar with in that category at the time that we are ready to buy. So it is about hammering home the things that make your brand distinctive. And if you are jumping on trending audio, you need to know that that audio is the distinctive brand asset within that piece. The thing that people are going to remember is the trend, it's the audio, it's the dance, it's the meme. So how do you bring your brand into that piece of content? It's really important to jump on those trends and do that to get the reach. But actually, if that reach is going to do anything for you commercially, your brand has to be really present. And that isn't just about sticking your logo on it. And actually, the people that do that best from a branding perspective are currently Marks and Spencer. I absolutely love Marks and Spencer because I'm completely their target demographic. But the way that they bring Percy Pig and Colin the Caterpillar into every single trend. Now, obviously, it is so much easier to do that when you are mascot led. And that's why Duolingo is the success story that it is on social media. But there are ways to do it if you don't have a mascot. And it's just about thinking, how do you bring your brand to the forefront of every single asset that you create so that you're constantly reinforcing that in people's memory?
Nice. Just to clarify for everyone, the takeaway from that is not create a mascot. Create a mascot. Please don't go and do that as a result of what Sian was just saying. Actually, your take on this. Anything a brand should stop doing in 2020?
Yeah, I'll build up on what Sian was saying. Essentially, the brands should stop delegating their brand identity to the platforms they are on. And that tendency is going to get stronger with the introduction of shopping agents in ChatGPT or Google, where with all the platforms, you tend to just get lost in the crowd. And you need to think of, okay, these will act as a discovery layer, but how do I own my relationship with the customers, my loyal customers, and how do I retain them so that they become repeat purchases? That's the question the brands need to think about. And there's a very strong tendency because if, let's say it's, I know, of course, AI, because that's where I do. If ChatGPT starts recommending your products along with 3 other brands, how do you appear? How do you control a brand? Is a key question that brand needs to ponder over and answer. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would, if I can, I would add to that for those of us that are relative dinosaurs from the dawn of internet times and remember this. If you remember when Amazon first started, it was a discount platform and actually brands didn't want to be on it because they didn't want to be discounting. A lot of agencies existed purely to help businesses set up and get their catalogs onto Amazon. And they actually really struggled to sell their services because Amazon was seen as a discount platform. Obviously, then the big transformation and the giant of e-com that it is now. But that is the real challenge of that is how do you own your brand? How do you avoid any negative associations with the platform platforms that you're on. And actually with the kind of dawning of shopping within ChatGPT and Claude and all of these different Gemini and all of these different platforms, we can learn a lot of lessons from that time and the journey that brands went on. You know, some brands will have been through that and will now be going through it with AI. Some won't have been around that long, but you can go and read case studies of these things from the agencies that took brands on the journey and, you know, go and be really meta about it. Go and ask AI about what happened in those times and how that transition was managed.
And what's your perspective on that? Obviously, you know, you said that like TikTok is the big play for this year, but presumably you and your community members are also tackling the geo AI search issues as well. What's your
Yeah.
advice around that at the
I
moment?
mean, it goes back to what Sian was saying as well, is like just the multiple touch points, right? You need to show up to that customer multiple times for them to be right. When they're ready to buy, they're going to buy something that's familiar. And so that's how you show up, is through these organic contents and where your customers actually are. If you're selling products and your customers aren't on TikTok, then you probably shouldn't be doing TikTok, right? So you should need to figure out, you know, maybe it's Pinterest, maybe it's something else, right? So you got to go where they are. Maybe it's Facebook groups, you know. So I've seen plenty of companies like actually grow by sharing or participating in Facebook groups. It's incredible. So getting that touch point going forward, and how are you going to choose when the AI recommends a product over another one? It's using crowdsourced data. So how many people are talking about it? How many people on Reddit are talking about it? How many people on SEO and Google and all the social media platforms that they're listening to, right? So the data is coming in from everywhere. And so if you're not having people talk about your brand, recommending it, leaving reviews, doing all the things, then you're going to fall behind for sure. And so I think what now brands that want to be relevant are trying to take advantage of as much airtime and space as possible on the platform that's exposing them the fastest, which is TikTok.
Yeah, I think to be in the world of, obviously to be building AI tools for e-commerce at the moment is a great place to be in. But I think the other great place to be is if you're in PR or you're in
Totally.
content creation or high quality social media or community management, because that's so crucial now for getting surfaced by the AI. But I promised at least 3 people we're going to get to their questions, and I'm seeing the clock ticking by. So let's start tackling some of the audience's questions. First off, from Ivan, who got his question in super duper early. Thank you, Ivan. It's a big one. You don't all have to answer this if you don't want to, but if you had to cut 50% of your current e-commerce stack tomorrow, which tools would you keep and why? Who fancies diving in on this, or shall I pick on someone? Ian, can I come to you again? Because you gave such a good answer on the what to stop doing. Can I pick on you for this one?
I mean, this is also one where I usually, you know, these are tools, right? They should be making you more efficient and helping you to understand your data better, or, you know, talk to more customers faster, or save money on employees. So, you know, cutting your stack is not really the idea unless you're just in cost cutting mode. I think you got to find new AIs and new tools and systems that can help you expand your business versus cutting. So that's kind of a place of being in scarcity or in growth mode, right? Abundance. I would say, you know, don't look to cut things, but if you sign up for service, I like to review my software every quarter, everything that's a recurring charge. And I just like how we looked at it in the last quarter. If not, then we cut it. And then you're like, oh, we need that back. Okay, cool. We just add it back. But like, it's great to save money. And you know, if you're going to exit your business as well, then it really makes sense to cut costs.
Yeah, I think it is well, if we're not using it, we should stop paying for it rather than I don't know, email marketing's dead. Clear email marketing tech. Say that because it's utterly ridiculous suggestion, everyone. Do not quote me on that. But I feel like that's it. Ashu, Sian, anything either of you want to? Ashu?
I'll just give an example of a customer, and exactly to what Ian said. It's less about cutting costs, more about thinking holistically, like what I can bring together seamlessly so that it feels integrated. So a famous skincare brand that we work with, now they had like different things. So for example, they had a quiz to understand your skin. They had a different tool for routine building, like skincare routine. And what they did is, and of course they had like product FAQs, they consolidated all of 3 with Alhena as like a single AI solution. So they still had those entry points, like build a routine. Do you have a question? Click here to get an answer. Maybe they'll show questions as well. Skin analysis tool as well. So click on the skin analysis tool, it opens the AI. But all the 3, they land into the AI, which is an integrated solution. So they were able to consolidate those tools that way. So now with AI, you can take a look at what different parts of my tool stack are separate, And can I bring them together seamlessly so that they feel more integrated and polished?
I think that's a really valuable exercise. Have we got any tools we're not using? Have we got 3 tools that are doing the job that one better tool could do? And then the only other bit I would add to what you've both said there is aligning your tech stack to your funnel. This is just something that not enough brands do from my perspective. So what is your customer journey all the way through, including the nurture for the repeat customer element and the keeping them in the brand world? And then just looking at what tech have we got at each stage of that and what is it doing for us and is it performing? Too often when we go into cost cutting mode, I'm like, okay, we've got so much software here. What can we cut? You go really straight into pounds and pennies or dollars ROI and go, okay, we're not getting a return on investment for that. But actually, performance marketing and brand marketing are not separate anymore. We've just talked about customers need to be talking about you. You need to be recognizable. Brand is a huge part of what drives performance. So you have to do that work of just going, how is this serving us? Is it a top of funnel thing where it's about brand awareness? And then is it the most efficient tool for achieving that? Is it a conversion tool at the bottom that we would be expecting to be generating £4 for every pound we spend on it? And then is it doing that? But just being really careful about what metrics you're making those decisions based on and it not purely being about cost.
Okay, right. We've got 3 more at the moment questions to get through. Audience, there may be time for me to ask another question as well, because I'm going to ask my panel to give super quick answers, and we probably won't go to everyone for answers on all of these. But we are going to try and fit them all in. So panel, short answers, and you don't have to answer every question because I want to make sure we get these answered for the audience. So first off, any real case studies or examples of AI tools that have actually delivered results? Clearly, Alexandros has been having a bit of a nightmare with bad tools. Obviously, Alhena AI is amazing, so you should go and check that one out. But are there any other tools anyone's willing to name check or advice on making sure your AI tools work on this? Because obviously, we are in the land of garbage in, garbage out. So it may be setup that's the issue. Ian, I think you were the first to nod. So do you want to tackle this one for us?
Yeah,
We
sure.
lost-
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
there we go.
I was muted. Yeah, I mean, tools are only as good as the person using them, right? So all need an operator, of course. For me, I love a tool called Whisper AI, which allows me to basically talk to my phone and I can basically type, I think it's like 180 words a minute now, just with my voice, and it's like dead on. So like I can respond to emails, I can send messages. I rarely type anymore. I just dictate to my phone. So that's been like way better than Apple Intelligence or Siri or anything like that. So check out Whisper if you want to basically save yourself like basically 5x your ability to type. So it's amazing.
I've heard very good things about that one too, and you can get it to work on your computer as well if you're a dull old computer like me.
I barely type anymore. I'm not going to have carpal tunnel because of this for sure. So highly recommend it. That's just like a tool that I think is great, right? I mean, I use ChatGPT every day. I use Perplexity. I use Grok. I use all of them, right, for different purposes. Claude, if we're making coding stuff. So, whatever it is, you got to use the right thing. AI is way better than it was 2 months ago and a month ago, right? So like whatever you thought, it's not the case anymore and it's moving super quick. So you got to take advantage of it. And I like to upload, a lot of data to it and then ask questions. And that's really where you kind of get like economies of scale and you can understand stuff or understand your call logs with your customer service people or, your sales history and where people are buying from or all your customer data. So you can really start to learn really quickly versus what you used to have to do in the past, which was make a spreadsheet, do a pivot table, like, sort through the data, do all the things. It's doing it all for you. And then of course, like AIs can bring in outside data and do research for you autonomously. So it's pretty amazing.
Okay, I'm going to move us on. I'm going to give Alexandros my 2 answers to this, and then we're going to move on to the next question. So let me put the next question up there so you guys can read it whilst I tell Alexandros my extra couple of pieces of advice. One would be there's so much specialist e-commerce tech now. I would look for something that is specialist e-commerce because it's going to have already been built to do some of what you want. And I'd also look at your existing tool set and see what AI they've put in place that you can tap into, which somebody else mentioned earlier on, because that's quite a safe way to going into it. But unfollow all that great advice that Ian just gave us. So Sophie Tovey is asking us everyone's in typing mode. Are you all already using Whisper? Very, very wordy questions we're getting today. Sophie's had a nightmare with the Google organic traffic. on a specific day, thus suggesting it's a Google rollout, which suggests it's something to do with too much AI content on the website. Massive challenge for all of us. How much AI do you or don't you use for the content on your website? I know we don't have any specific SEO specialists in here amongst our audience today, but any tips for Sophie for future content creation and fixing content on the site?
Yeah, I can come in. I used to lead SEO for LinkedIn before Alhena. So, Sophie, the advice here is the AI content per se is not the problem. The low quality content is the problem. So, what the tendency with the AI has been is to create lots of content, scale the content in terms of quantity without looking at the quality. And that can harm you. And it takes a really long time once Google penalizes you to come out of that hole. It's far more work to come out of that hole than to not go in that hole. So my advice would be use AI to create high quality content that people find valuable and go back to the core metrics. What's the dwell time? Like how much time they're spending once they see your content in a AEO or search results, are they clicking on it? So those are the two or three key metrics that matter for SEO. And as long as, and those same apply for AEO as well, pretty much, especially when it comes to the Google universe. So yeah, that will be my advice is the focus on quality, not on quantity. And you can use AI. Like Google wants you to use AI to create high quality content.
I don't think any of us are going to beat Ashu's knowledge in this space. So I think we'll move on. We'll move on to the next one. And Sophie, the other thing I would say to that is the good news is we are not in the days of penguin and panda. I say, aging myself. So there is plenty of advice out there of how to recover from this situation. You're not going to be, trawling around in the dark trying to make it work for you. Okay. Next question we've got is from Robin Bell. Whilst you're all reading that quickly, there's been Sian, thank you for the recommendation to Alexandros in the chat. Do go and have a read of that. So Robin has another marvelously long question, thank you, which is basically, with all that's going on in the e-commerce space at the moment, what is going to be the number one key driver of e-commerce success in 2026-27? Now, slight repetition of my very first question, where what advice are you sharing with people? But Ian, are we still all about the TikTok? Is this still the key driver of e-commerce success in 2026, 2027? Or is there a kind of a strategy behind the scenes, an approach that you'd also like to mention?
I think it's going to keep the attention for quite a while. It's where the youth is, right? And what they're looking at and watching. So now that it's not being banned and it's being controlled, I think, between that and Instagram, they're forces to be reckoned with as far as attention goes. And that's where you want to be.
Simple as that. Any alterations from you on early? Anything deeper you want to go to with this one?
On the challenging economic environment, let's not go into too much detail because we don't want to burn ourselves out, but
no, we don't.
We all have eyes and the news and social media feeds, and we can all see what's going on in the world and how it's affecting us. And we can see and feel how it's affecting our spending. And we are seeing disposable incomes become so much tighter, and that is affecting people's purchasing behavior. So there's always talk about demographics are dead and, psychographics is where it's at. You need both. And actually your demographic targeting tells you who has the disposable income that they could spend on you. That should always be your first step. Don't be trying to target customers that just cannot afford you. You're not going to make them want to afford you. And then for those ones that can afford you, but it's going to be quite challenging to win them over because of what's going on economically, and they are more considered about their purchases, our impulse spending thresholds increase. So where you're willing to spend and how quickly you're willing to make a decision. So obviously, if your money is tight, you're going to spend less money on impulse purchases. So the real way to cut through, it is about being on the right platforms. It is about doing the right things for the algorithm to get attention and to cut through. But it is also about lifetime value. And it is about once you've won that customer, your cost of acquisition is going to be more expensive. So once you've won them, keeping that relationship with them, like we said earlier, and the way that you're going to do that is through building brand trust. There's been so many shiny, lovely, very expensive PDF reports commissioned by the marketing industry, as we love to do at this time of year. And everyone devours them and then comes to LinkedIn and goes, brand is back, brand is back. Brand never went away. Brand is about signifying trust and reducing risk. What I would say is my kind of nugget to take away from this little rant and ramble that I've gone on here is just be in that mindset of not how do we convince them to spend. You're never going to convince them. You're never going to change their behavior. You need to fit in with the existing behavior and fit in with the economic conditions around them. Actually, how can we de-risk this purchase for them? If you focus it from that, what are their barriers? Assume that it's a no and that you have to win them over with a yes by de-risking it. So what are all the possible reasons that our customer could say no to this purchase? And then how do we address those at every stage of the relationship and at post-purchase to keep them coming back for more?
Dare we say you've got to be a better marketer again. I think I say that every single year, but I do find it fascinating how the impact of AI, both in AI search, in how we're using it in the garbage in, garbage out side of things, in how it's changing how the ad platforms are working, how it's changing how content is delivered on platforms like TikTok, is actually making brand more important, and the understanding of the customer and how the customer talks and all of this so much more important. And I could waffle on about that with no stats to back me up on for hours. Ashu, do you have an answer to Robin's very long question?
It's hard to beat what Sian and Ian just already had, so I'll keep quiet.
Okay, cool. The timing going on in my head, thanks you massively for that. Okay, so that is it for questions from the audience. Thank you all for the questions you have sent through. We really appreciate it. I have my final question to the panel, which is, as always, a very big question, where undoubtedly at least one of you will bring up something we haven't yet talked about and throw me a total curveball. But what would be your key takeaway for someone who has watched this, who is looking to have a really successful 2026? You can repeat something you've talked about already. We can go into something, you can share something we haven't talked about, so they have to go and do a load of Googling or chat GPTing after this to find out the answers. But what would be your key takeaway for everyone from this? What's your key? What's really going to move the needle in 2026? Ian, we'll come to you first, then Sian, then Ashu. You've got about 1 max 2 minutes each to answer, if that's possible. Ian.
Yeah, I mean, to sum it up for me, it's just take advantage of the things that are, going to produce the highest ROI for your business, and analyze from that standpoint. Take advantage of tools that are going to save you time and money and help you, create new levers that you can use in your business. Brands in MDS are taking advantage of AI all over the place, from how they can put it in their business to create new products, to represent the customer, to scaling up their operations. And in JoinBrands, we use it internally as well to analyze customer data and help you find the right creators and influencers for your business. For me, JoinBrands is also a tool that brands need to use as part of their tech stack to talk to creators and influencers and affiliates within seconds versus DMing them and doing all the things they used to do. So that's why we built that tool, is to save time and money and create that frictionless environment for that. So that said, yeah, I think you just got to take advantage of stuff and focus on what is going to work and actually take action.
Efficiency, and action. I like it in. I like it a lot. Sian, your take.
Thanks. Sorry, I had to mute because I had a rogue cat, so hopefully she hasn't caused too much chaos. So there are hundreds of thousands of things that you could do that could potentially unlock growth for your business, and it's really overwhelming. And then you look at the news, and as we've just discussed, that's really overwhelming too. The only way to know what you should do for your business is going to come from deep knowledge of who your customers are, deep knowledge of the customer journey you take them on, and the data already within your business to show you what is working, what is not working, and what you can cut to then channel more time and resources into what is working. And then building out from there. And the number one bit of advice that was given to me in the early days that was invaluable, that I try to give to everybody whenever I have a chance, is everything you see on social media and LinkedIn and the internet is somebody's shop front. It's really highly polished. It's beautiful. It's not real life. Real life is the store cupboard in the back that is really messy, and boxes are stacked up and nobody really knows where anything is. So really valuable to be on social media and to be consuming, but you should always be creating more than you consume. And you should really, really try to protect your own bubble in terms of your mental health, your comparison, and your strategy. set that strategy, set that plan based on the data within your business and what you know to be true about your customers, and let that be the absolute guiding star. And from there, you can try things, you can jump on trends, you can try new platforms, you can do all of that, but you can do it with a plan so that you don't end up burning loads of time, loads of resources, and burning yourself out.
So easy to get distracted by all the bright, shiny objects. But if you've got that guiding star, as you said, then you can stay on track. And when you go inevitably off track, you can bring yourself back to the guiding star as well. Ashu, last but definitely not least, what's your final thought for the audience, please?
Yeah. And I think it comes to someone asked me, like, what's the hardest thing if you had a magic wand that you could change? And my answer to that question was, if I could make people believe in the power of like how capable AI actually is, it's unbelievable if you get it right. And so, for example, if I tell you that all the brands are leaving maybe 5% to 10% of revenue on the table, only if they started using a shopping agent on their brand owned properties, apps, and websites, they'll increase the revenue by that much. And that just sounds unbelievable, but you got to try it. We recently published a case study with Victoria Beckham where they drove over 10% revenue and 20% average order value using shopping agents. So that you can use it in, like, AI is moving way faster and you can use it in any function. So for example, my engineering team produces 3 times more work than they used to 2 years ago. And that is because we use AI agents heavily. Same for my marketing team. Same for my sales team. And it's not AI slop. It's again going back to someone's questions about quality versus quantity. So you still have to focus on quality, but the capabilities of the AI, it can really help you scale. And if there is one thing that's going to move the needle in 2026, it's going to be how you leverage AI in all functions of your work, from my perspective.
Nice. Love that example. Yeah, it's about scaling. It's not about replacing the job. It's about doing more in the job, I suppose, isn't it? Love those answers. Huge thank you to our panel, Ian, Ashu, and Sian. It's been awesome having you involved in this. Everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us live. Those of you watching the replay, we love you just as much too. And thank you, those who were live, for sending in their questions as well. Huge thanks to Ashu and the Alhena team for being our partners in this. You can find out more about them at alhena.ai. All of you watching, you will get an email later tonight, maybe tomorrow, that will give you access to the replay. So why not share that with your teams? Help them get together and get on top of everything that we've been talking about. Thank you very much for saying thank you. We love that you stuck around to the end and that you've enjoyed it. So thank you very much, everybody watching. And if you want to join us for the next one, let me get that up on screen over here. We will be doing all this again with a completely different topic on the 18th of February. We've got another brilliant guest lineup for that one. And we will be talking again about growth, but this time more about profits. How do you do all those clever things around promotions and personalization and conversion rate optimization that will help you improve your profits? So we'll be doing that on the 18th of February. You can sign up for that right now on the site, and which is, let me find it. It's here. Sign up at webinar.ecommerceexplore.com, and I look forward to seeing you in about a month's time. Thank you, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.